Cameron Strang, and this is the Relevant Podcast Impact Conversation Series. On this final episode of our 6-part series, we're talking with two people who have major platforms and chose to use that visibility to point towards something deeper. Over the last few weeks, we've shared conversations with Jimmy Darts, David Meltzer, Bear Grylls, Maddie Pruitt-Trout, Ben Higgins, and others. Today's episode brings two guests whose stories sit at very different intersections of faith, culture, and leadership. First up is TreVeyon Henderson, a rookie running back for the New England Patriots who used his inaugural NFL season to point everything back to Jesus. While his professional career is just beginning, his spiritual leadership journey actually started earlier back at Ohio State, when he and a small group of teammates began leading faith-centered gatherings that drew attention across campus and far beyond. That story is now being highlighted in the new docuseries Redemption, which is now streaming on the Wonder Project on Prime Video. In their conversation, our managing editor, Emily Brown, talks with TreVeyon about what it looks like to lead spiritually in high-pressure spaces, how his faith shaped him long before Sundays in the NFL, and why obedience matters more than outcomes. But before we get to that conversation, we want to thank the presenting sponsor of this Impact Conversation series, Christian humanitarian organization World Vision, who's dedicated to working with children, families, and their communities worldwide to reach their full potential by tackling the causes of poverty and injustice. Depending on when you're watching this, Christmas is right around the corner, so you might want to check out their Christmas gift catalog and learn more about how to be a part of World Vision's life-changing work. Go to worldvision.org/relevant to learn about giving a goat or an alpaca and how it can help transform a community. You can even donate a clean water well if you wanted. You'll find a wide variety of gift options, all of which can make a tangible difference in the lives of children and families all over the world. And don't forget, all of your contributions to World Vision are tax deductible. All right, without any further ado, here's Emily Brown's conversation with TreVeyon Henderson.
I'd love to kind of start at the beginning of your journey. When did your football career first start?
Yeah, so I started playing football probably at the age of, 6 or 7. And, it came really natural. And, I was able to have a lot of success just growing up. And, at the time, just growing up in the area where I grew up in, a lot of people, they don't make it out, at a young age. A lot of people, they end up going down a path of, getting into gang violence and, et cetera. So my mom, she had put me into football to escape that and just try to keep us out of trouble. And so, that really helped us out a lot as well, just growing up and just trying to keep our head, head on straight and just, going down the right path.
When did you know that, this was not just a sport you loved, but something that you really wanted to really dedicate your life to?
Yeah, really around high school, watching my brother, when he was in high school, he was someone who started making all A's and he started to receive a lot of scholarships. And, at that time, it really gave me hope that I can make it out of my city. As I mentioned, it's kind of rare for someone to make it out. And so it gave me a lot of hope just growing up and watching my brother just being like a role model to me and my younger brother. And, I really just started to follow his footsteps, just seeing the way that he put it, see the work that he puts in, seeing how serious he took, getting his education and making good grades. And, eventually God started to open up doors for me to get scholarships and be able to make it out of my city and be able to go to Ohio State.
Yes, Ohio State. Was that a school that you had been following for a long time, or how did you end up at Ohio State?
Yeah, it's a school, it was always a dream to be able to end up there. I used to watch them a lot around middle school. And, so it was just it was honestly like a dream come true. I remember getting the offer from Ohio State and just being so excited. And, I kind of knew from then and there, that was a school that I wanted to go to.
You mentioned God opened a door to that. I want to talk a little bit about your faith journey. Where did, your journey with God really begin for you?
Yeah, for me, it didn't begin at a young age. It didn't begin in middle school or high school. It started my sophomore year of college. And, before I met Jesus, I just remember just living a life far apart from Christ. And, as I mentioned, just this game, falling in love with this game, it became an idol in my life. It became a false god and, idolizing money and, just doing a, not even realizing just the path that I was headed down. Although my that I had my head on straight just with football and that aspect of going down the right path, but just in life, I didn't even realize the dark path that I was on until the Lord stripped football away from me. And he really opened my eyes and just, I just remember, I had a season ending injury that year. And, it really just, it left me vulnerable and it humbled me in life and as a person. And, I remember just, sitting down on my bed one day after surgery, and the Lord, he revealed himself to me in that moment. And, in a way that he started showing me just like sinful things that I've done in the past. And in that moment, what he was doing was just humbling me and helping me to acknowledge that I was a sinner in need of his grace and mercy. And, from then and there, I just went on this journey of just pursuing Jesus and getting to know the Lord and getting to know his ways. And I remember as I was reading and as I'm growing in the word, I'm starting to realize all the miracles he was performing. And growing up, I had this issue called sleep paralysis. And at night, I used to see these scary figures. I used to hear these really evil and dark voices. And at times, I was trapped down in my bed like I couldn't move. And I'm realizing I'm learning in the Bible how Jesus, how he was filled with the power of God and how he was casting out evil spirits out of people. And, I just started to wonder, maybe these are like evil spirits, attacking me at night. And so when I read that, something led me to start praying about it, because I tried the doctors and I tried to do what they said, but it didn't work. And then I tried Jesus and he delivered me and, he set me free from sleep paralysis. And right there, when he performed that miracle in my life, my faith really grew in the Lord. And, it allowed me to see that, like, Jesus, you are who you say you are. And then eventually, as I just was growing over time, eventually I just felt the call to fully surrender my life to Christ, like to really give up my selfish and sinful ways and pursue Jesus and learn how to deny myself and carry my cross. And once I made that decision in my life by the grace and help of God, I started to find so much joy in this peace that just I can't explain. And he turned me away from idolizing football, idolizing money. He turned me away from just living this life of sin, and he changed my desire and my heart to start pursuing righteousness, to start following him. And so, it's a journey. It's not easy. When you make that commitment to give your life to Jesus, life actually gets a little bit harder, because now the enemy is coming to attack you. And, here comes temptation and hardships and suffering. And that's one thing that the Lord does promise. He does promise. He doesn't promise that we will have an easy life, that everything will always go our way, but he does promise that we will have hardships. We will have suffering, but he says, take heart, because he's overcome the world. And so I've been able to just, despite the hardships that I went through and the suffering that I face, and, I've been able to just trust in that promise that I can take heart and just trust that the Lord has overcome this world, and through him, we have overcome also.
I hate that you had to go through, obviously, like a season ending injury, but I do love just the beautiful gospel that was presented to you in that time. I know there are a lot of OSU team members who also have a really strong faith. Were there any specific team members just during that time who were able to help you and walk with you through that season?
Yeah, we actually had players who came before us who pretty much helped prepare the way. Their names are Master Teed, Cam Babb, Xavier Johnson, Emeka, and these are guys who honestly was the first guys I really saw in my life, just be that example of what it looks like to follow Jesus, to have a genuine relationship with God. And, eventually me and my teammate, G. Scott Jr., we started pursuing the Lord around the same time. And, once a couple of the guys graduated, me, G, and Emeka, and a couple of other guys on the team last year, we just really felt the Lord, just wanting to work through us and use us for his glory. And so we decided to surrender in that way as well, and just share our testimonies with teammates, with family members, and just testify about the grace and the mercy of God and what the Lord has done in our lives.
Yeah, I feel like the the faith of OSU's football team was such like a really beautiful story to follow along with last year. And I know that that's sort of that's the story that's being told in Redemption now on the Wonder Project. Why is it so important for you to use the platform that you've been given to talk about faith and talk about God in this way?
Really just like what the Lord has done in my life, the things that he has healed me from, the mercy and the forgiveness that he has shown me, and just experiencing his goodness, experiencing his love and his kindness for myself. And, I just, it's honestly like, it's no choice but to testify, but to tell others about it. And, that's just what I want to continue to do, is just, share my testimony, because there's so many people out there who are experiencing the things that I've experienced, whether that's depression, suicidal thoughts, whether that's struggling with shame and guilt over the things that you've done, and just giving them hope that, that if you put your faith in Jesus Christ, that the Lord can wash away your sins, that the Lord can heal you from depression, suicidal thoughts, anxiety, and fear, and all these things. The Lord can do all things, and the Lord can transform your life. And I've just been able to experience that in my own life and see how powerful and how gracious the Lord is. And, I just want to tell others about it.
It sounds like the team at OSU, there was a lot of just Christian brothers that you had on the team with you to walk with you. What has the transition been like going into the NFL, like carrying out your faith on just in a bigger league, in a different league?
Yeah. It hasn't been easy, honestly. It's not an easy thing to do to carry a cross and to try and be a light in such dark environments. And, as people know, even the athletes, like the locker rooms can really be a dark environment. But like the Lord says, he has placed a light in us, and, he didn't place this light in us to cover it up, but he placed this light in us to let it shine. Wherever we go, whether that's a work environment, whether that's around my family, my teammates, no matter who it may be around. And so, I've just tried my best to be intentional about, leaning on the Lord, growing with him in a secret place, getting in his word, and, getting in prayer, and just asking the Lord to really help me be a light to others. And so he's definitely been, I've definitely been just seeing the ways that the Lord has been able to use me in the locker rooms, use me in the Patriots facility. And I'm just thankful for it. Honestly, I'm just thankful that, God wants to use someone like me, because I'm so undeserving.
You mentioned kind of at the beginning of this sort of your day, you have like a little bit of just rhythm and time to reset. I know a lot of people, as their platform grows, sometimes it can just be hard to maintain the things that they really are passionate about, and the things that they want to stay focused on, like God or relationships, just different things like that. So I'd love to know, like, what are some disciplines that you have to help you stay focused on God and what he has called you to?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing that helps me on my walk with Jesus is really just spending time in a secret place. Spending time, that decompression that I was talking about after my days of practice. That's the best part of my day, honestly, is just when I get to sit still and spend time with the Lord and just allow him to speak to me, through his word, and just continue to grow me, and just being able to have time where I pour out my heart to God, and, just thank him for all that he's done, and just, allow him to search my heart, and help me to see ways that I continue to grow with him. And also just learning how to rest in his grace. That's something that I've been learning, because in football, it's just like, even in life, in this life that we live in, it's like you always have to earn something. And what I'm understanding just about the gospel, we can't earn salvation. We can't earn God's love. The only thing we can do is receive it. Is to put our faith in Jesus Christ, to accept who Jesus Christ is, what he's done on the cross and his resurrection, and to receive his love, and to receive the free gift of salvation. And so, that's something that I've been learning how to balance out in my life. It's just, okay, when it comes to football, I know I got to earn X, Y, and Z, but when it comes to God, it's not about earning. It's not about what I can do. It's about what he's done.
That's so interesting. How do you balance that tension? Like, because I'm sure there's days where you do fall into that, where you feel like you need to earn God's XYZ, like, how do you fight through that?
No, it was actually, this was something that was pretty difficult for me, especially me. Like, I'm really tedious about the things that I do, with my house. I like it super organized and detailed and everything like that. And so, it's something that I really had to acknowledge before God. And it's something that really the Lord helped point out in my heart that, I need to learn how to rest. That I don't need to strive out of my own strength to try and, I don't know, just try to like earn his love or think that I can do certain things to earn salvation. And so I really just had to continue to grow in the grace of God and just understanding his love, understanding the gospel in a deeper way, and just realizing that it's just like, I'm just so undeserving. Like, I can never earn God's love. I can never earn salvation. And just like what the Lord has done on the cross, when he said it is finished, trusting that like it is finished, like the price has been paid, the work has been done. And so, just really learning how to accept what the Lord has done for me, and just learning, by God's Spirit to serve him out of a place of resting and not of a place of striving and trying to earn.
It seems to me, especially within the last year or two, there's a lot of professional athletes who have been very bold about their faith in Jesus, and just sharing more about how he's working in their lives in interviews and things like that. Is that a shift that you're noticing as well in the NFL? Like, as you talk with different players, like, do you see God working in some way in the NFL?
I do. I see, like, it's just all over. Like, God is really moving on the hearts of athletes, and he's always moving, but just like specifically just like athletes in this industry. And I just think it's so important for us athletes to understand just the influence that we have and just the responsibility that we take on when we do profess our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And so that's something that I've just really been trying to be intentional about praying on, is just being a man of integrity, really learning how to do the right things when no one is looking, and truly taking up my cross and denying myself and following Christ, so that I may lead others the right way, not just by my lip service, but with my actions. And so it's something that I've been leaning on the Lord to really do, and really just encouraging other athletes to do as well. It's just understanding the responsibility and the influence that we have. And so when people look up to us, that we point them to Jesus.
I would love to know, like, what advice you have for other athletes, or younger athletes in particular, who, maybe they're one of the only believers on their team and they're maybe nervous about sharing their faith or speaking up in any way. Like, do you have any encouragement for them?
Yeah. I just want to say I understand that it's not easy to always be bold for the Lord, to be courageous for the Lord. And it's not easy to live out your faith in dark environments. And, even as I read the scriptures and grow in the word, like specifically, I just want to talk about one of Jesus' disciples, Peter. Peter was someone who was known to be bold and courageous, but the Lord told him that he would deny him 3 times. And at first, Peter didn't believe it, because he was someone who was known to be bold and courageous. And eventually, Peter ended up denying Jesus 3 times. And what I realized in that moment is the only way we can truly be bold for the Lord as we follow Jesus, the only way we can be courageous for the Lord is by his Spirit. And it's not on our own strength. It's only by his Spirit. And so it's something that I've really been learning in my life to do, because I'm someone, I'm someone who I want to continue to grow in boldness and courage for the Lord, and just in my faith. And I'm just learning just through the scriptures, and even in my own life, just like learning how to lean on the Lord and not lean on my own strength.
I know we need to wrap up soon, but I did want to ask, a few weeks ago, you participated in the My Cause, My Cleats week, where you highlighted persecuted Christians in Nigeria. And I just wanted to ask, why, of all the causes in the world, why was that one that just really kind of tugged on your heart?
Yeah. And thank you for asking that question. It's just lately, just over past time, like I've been following these different Instagram pages who cover just like the news about the persecuted church, because you don't see these things on like the regular news channels and stuff like that. And constantly seeing just the lives that have been taken and how these followers of Jesus in other countries, how they've lost everything. It's really been breaking my heart. And I don't know, the Lord has really been using that to open my eyes. And these are the things he warns us, as his followers, that we will be persecuted for his name's sake. And but there's hope for us. And it's just it encourages me though, despite these people, they're losing their lives. They're losing family members. They're losing their homes. Churches are being burnt down. Despite them losing all these things, they still have their faith in Jesus Christ. They still have hope in the Lord. They still have joy and peace, even through those circumstances. And that's only by the Lord. And it really just encourages me just so much. And I feel like just the Lord has been giving me a desire to want to serve, to want to help them in any way that I can, and just to want to continue to spread awareness about it as well, and just call other people to join those who are already praying to pray as well, to serve as well, however the Lord may put it on your heart. And so and I just pray that it may encourage us here in the U.S. I feel like they encourage us, and they're giving us an example of what it looks like to take up your cross and follow Jesus, no matter what it may cost you.
I can't think of a better way to wrap up this conversation than with that encouragement. Thank you for that. Thank you for your time today. This has just been so fun hearing about your story and hearing about your heart for the Lord. I honestly, I'm not a huge football fan, but I think you've convinced me to be a Patriots fan. So Go Patriots. There we go.
That was TreVeyon Henderson. If you want to see more of his story, check out the docuseries Redemption, which is streaming now on the Wonder Project subscription on Prime Video. Now, for the second half of today's episode, Emily also sat down with Lecrae, one of the most influential voices in Christian hip-hop and a defining figure in how the genre has evolved over the last 2 decades. With the release of his 10th album, Reconstruction, Lecrae is in a season of reflection and recalibration. In their conversation, they talk about following his own path when expectations are loud, how Lecrae sees his role in Christian hip-hop right now, and where he hopes to help lead others next, creatively, culturally, and personally. But before we get into that conversation, I want to remind you that this series is brought to you by World Vision. World Vision's development work empowers communities to set their own goals and equips them so that progress made is sustained and continued for generations to come. And all of your donations to World Vision are tax deductible. Learn more about how to be a part of their life-changing work at worldvision.org/relevant. And don't forget to check out their Christmas gift catalog, where you'll find a wide array of gift options, all of which make a tangible difference in the lives of children and families all over the world. All right, without further ado, here is Emily Brown's conversation with Lecrae.
We are here to talk about your new album, Reconstruction. It's the 10th one, very personal one. And I'm curious, what felt different about this album as you were making it compared to your previous projects?
I think every album that I've worked on historically, there was a projection of who I desired to be, who I was working to become. And Reconstruction this is who I am. And I'm very confident in it. And it's not aspirational. It's just I'm sitting in the exact spot where I'm at. And people are if you're inspired by what I'm talking about, it's because I've really dug my heels in and I'm hey, this is me. This is where I'm at right now.
These are very personal songs. Was there ever a moment where you were I actually don't want my fans to know this. I want to kind of hold this to myself.
I won't say I want to hold it to myself as much as I don't know how they're going to receive this. You know, that was erase me, because my biggest pet peeve is being misunderstood. I've been misunderstood so much in my career that it irks me, and I realize that's just a part of leadership. So it's kind of I wrote that record and then I sent it to people that I admired. I sent it to leaders and thinkers and processors. And I was hey, what do you think? Did I go too far here? Did I say too much here? And there were some people who pushed back, and there were some people who said, this is perfect. Because I just was man, I'm risking being misunderstood again. And, whether it's been by the evangelical community or it's been by, the hip hop community, it's just so much room for misinterpretation. And I was just nervous about that. But then I was I just can't care. I just can't care. And I just got to put it out there. And then that's what I did.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that any creative feels of like, I'm going to put this out. Something's always so personal to me and I'm going to be misunderstood. What advice do you have for like young creatives who are wrestling with that and want to just not care?
Yeah, I mean, you got to know where you are, right? Like if you know that you won't be healthy showing that aspect of yourself off to the world, then I would say, it may not be time to do that. Maybe do it in doses. There's a difference between transparency and vulnerability. I think transparency is when it's like a healed version of you that is showing the world what you want them to see. Vulnerability is you're making yourself vulnerable. Like you can be hurt from this. And if you're not prepared to be hurt from listeners and people who don't know you, if you haven't healed in a way to where you can handle that, then I would say, man, keep that a little closer to the chest. It's not like risk your mental health for the sake of getting the art out. It's actually like every song needs to be written, but every song doesn't need to be shared. So write the music. You're doing that for your own catharsis and, whatever, but it may not need to be for the whole world. It may be for you.
It just the way you're saying that, it definitely feels like that's like a learned lesson that you've kind of accumulated over the years. I'm sure there was probably a lot of like maybe subconsciously like self-reflection as you were working on this because it's the 10th one. Were there any, any like moments of reflection where you were like, wow, I wish I knew this, when I was working on my first project?
The whole thing. The whole thing. What people got to understand on this album is like, I guess I just really don't care. I'm not, and I don't mean that in like a cynical way.
Right.
You know what I mean? But just in a way of like I know my art form. I've studied the craft. I know what I believe. I know I've probably read more and done more research on these topics than the average layman has. So I gotta put my flagpole in the ground. And I've spent thousands of dollars on therapy, so much money on therapy that, one of the things my therapist said is you need to own your voice. You just need to own it. And I think I haven't for so long. I was trying to be who everybody else wanted me to be. And at this juncture in my life, I'm like, I can't. I say if you live for their accepting, you'll die from their rejection. And I just refuse to live for the acceptance of people. So this album is just, this is it, man. This is it. Yeah. That
feels like a big breakthrough to have. Is that something that you feel like happened on this album, or have you kind of been feeling that way for a while?
No, I mean, you heard it on this album for sure. Mm-hmm. And I had the confidence on this album. I think I had practiced it in regular life over the last year, but I hadn't artistically explored that. So this is the first time, I just, just like, hey man, this is just me being a sage, me being not a guru, but just somebody who's like, I tell the story because it's true. When I worked at a grocery store as a teenager, and when I was riding a grocery cart, it flipped over and all I saw was blood on my finger. I didn't know what happened. I didn't know if I lost the finger. I didn't know what happened. I just knew it was a lot of pain and a lot of blood. So I covered it up and I ran inside and I was like, yo, I can't look at it. And the butcher came over and he said, take the wrap off. Let me see. And he looked at it and he said, you'll be fine. And he showed me his hand. He was missing a finger. And in a weird way, it gave me confidence. Like, if this man says I'll be fine, I'll be fine. Now, all I did was rip my fingernail out of the bed. I come to find out. But he was like, man, listen, I've been there. I've been in the dirt, and I'm going to sit here with you in this dirt and tell you it's going to be okay. And that's what this album is for me. It's like, I've been through it. I've been in the dirt and I got some scars, but I'm going to show you some how my scars are evidence that healing is possible regardless of what you've been through. And I'm not ashamed of it anymore. I'm just like, sorry, it is what I'm missing fingers, y'all. I'm missing fingers and I'm rapping about it.
I do actually briefly want to ask about like we talked about earlier, Reconstruction is a big process. Was that always going to be the name of this project, or did you kind of have some other thoughts?
Yeah, if I would have been worried about like the broader, more conservative evangelical community, I would have called it like Rebuilding or renewed. But I was like, no, it's a reconstruction, because people really are deconstructing out there. People are really walking away from what they know to be true. And I want to say I tried to do that, and God reconstructed me. Like the foundation of Jesus is still very evident for me. And I realized I was doing myself a disservice, my family a disservice, by trying to walk away from him in order to find help out there. So I called it reconstruction because that's what happened, and whether the deconstructionists out there are like, then you didn't really deconstruct, or whether the conservative evangelicals out there are like, stay away from this language, it's dangerous. I'm like, listen, man, this is what happened. And I'm helping whoever needs to hear this go on, this in their lives. So, that's essentially what it is.
I say this as like fully supporting you. I kind of love when people push back on things they need to be pushed back on. And I know that in many ways you've done that throughout your career. And I know that that's probably exhausting, that it's not always fun to be the guy that's pushing back on everything. I would love to know, where do you find the strength and the confidence to keep doing the things that you need to be doing?
Yeah, I think in this season of life, for sure, it has come from knowing that leadership is lonely. You know what I'm saying? Or should I say, healthy stewardship is lonely. If you're really doing a good job with what you've been entrusted with, it's lonely because it's exhausting and people don't want to do it. And it's just easier to not care. And so once you embrace that, then you find both supernatural strength, and you also find people who are like, hey, I'm in that too, and it's like, I'll travel that mile, that road with you. It's just it's like the people who get up at 4:00 in the morning to work out. I'm not one of them, but I can imagine that they get up and they're just like, it's going to be a lonely road. But then there's probably one other person in the gym, and it's like, I see you with a 4 a.m. crew. And then they inspire each other, and good for them. The rest of us, hey, I'll
see you when the sun's up.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
So in some ways, some of the roads I take are the 4 a.m. workout, and it's just kind of like, there's not a lot of people there, but those who are there, I love. And some of those good friends are like my buddy Propaganda. He takes a lonely road, but I see him and we see each other, and it's like, yeah, let's go.
I feel like that kind of goes back to what you're saying, the purpose of this project, or one of the purposes of this project, was just to show people kind of where you've been and what you've been through, so that they can have that encouragement to go themselves. And I would love to know, I feel like Christian hip hop has just really exploded over the last few years. And there's so many amazing new artists coming up, and the many that you've worked with. And I would just kind of love to hear, how do you feel the next sort of era of Christian hip hop that we're entering? How do you feel about it? And what do you foresee for it?
I think you're right. It's exploding. I think it artistically, it is thriving in a unique way. And for me, I feel another sense of stewardship. If I don't try to help put some infrastructure around it, the vultures will, and the people will come in and try to ooh, what can we do with this? Because that's just the way the world works. Whenever something takes off, there's somebody who is industrious and who comes in and figures out a way to use it. And generally those are people who don't care about the culture. So because I care about Christian hip hop, I'm excited to just kind of get behind some of these artists and put some fuel in them, invest in things that are helpful, like the Holy Smoke Fest, the label, and just different things along those lines. But I think it's an amazing thing. I mean, people are just starting to hear music that speaks to their soul, and it's quality. What people don't understand is in mainstream hip hop, the bar got lowered. Whereas in Christian hip hop, we were always having to prove we were good enough. We were just as good. So our bar was always high. And I feel like we just met the bar and we jumped over it as of late.
Well, I do want to shift to talk about your legacy, because like we said, this is your 10th album and hopefully not the last one. But when you think about, your catalog and the career that you've had, 20 years from now, what do you hope people remember?
It's a good question. I really hope. So when I did Church Clothes, Volume 1, my dream was to become like an elder statesman within the hip hop community, like the Christian version of like a hip hop leader, Chuck D or something like that. You know what I mean? Like just like the voice that people look to for the Christian perspective within hip hop. And, or for a perspective that had a Christian worldview within the hip hop space. And I think that's what I just wanted to be. And I think in some degree that has happened, but more than anything, I would hope that I was a bridge from faith and culture. Right. And that's what I hope people saw is like, where's the bridge that connected culture and faith together? Right. Who understood us culturally enough to interpret faith to us, and who understood the faith enough to interpret it to the culture? And I think the people who've always inspired me in that capacity are like a C.S. Lewis or J.R. Tolkien or like a Francis Schaeffer, just like people who were like immersed in culture, but were trying to bring a Christian vantage point to it. And I would hope that I would go down in history as someone like that, someone who was a bridge from faith and culture.
It's interesting to hear you say that, like, even at the beginning of your career, you had that mindset. I feel like I don't hear that often. What was going on in your life when you were starting your career that like gave you that sort of overview mentality?
Yeah, some of it is like generational, right? So I'm what you call an exennial. So it's like I'm like very millennial, but like just enough of Gen X as well to like have experienced that. And I grew up around a lot of Gen Xers, and Gen Xers were like, their whole thing was to make the Christian version of something, right? Like they were like, we want a Christian club, or we want to make a Christian, like, a Christian coffee shop, or like a Christian auto body store. And like, millennials were more along the lines of like, we want to invade culture. We don't want to make a Christian club. We want to be Christians in the club. We want to like go immerse ourselves in it and bring light to it. And I think, I took a little bit of that Gen X energy and the millennial energy, and that shaped the way I was going to move. I think for Gen Z, it's like, I don't know. We're spiritual. We're not like categories. I don't know what all that is. Yeah. It's all big spiritual bucket, and I'm learning how to pick out of it what makes sense to me. But, the Gen X in me was like, there needs to be a distinction. And that was big for Gen X, distinction. But the millennial in me was like, but I want to be in it. Mm-hmm. I want to be like outside of it. I want to be in it. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, I had to be distinct inside of it. And that was the only way I was going to be able to thrive as a young artist, because the Gen X's will be like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be distinct and different. And so I had to have, they trained me to have a mission. It's like, what's your mission? They trained me like that. Whereas a lot of us in millennials, we didn't necessarily have a mission. We just knew we wanted to like be light. And some of us got overwhelmed and we drowned and we got convoluted and mixed up and it got sticky and murky. So I think I had the best of both worlds is what I'm trying to say, is like distinction while in the midst of it all. Yeah.
It does make me wonder, do you think we'll get to a place where there is not a Christian hip hop genre and it's all just hip hop?
I think so. I do, because Gen Z, that's how Gen Z moves. Names matter. Mm-hmm. So maybe for the sake of names, there may still be distinction, but I just think we like categories because it helps us to put stuff together. But I just remember when it was West Coast hip hop and East Coast hip hop. And it was like, and now no one says that. No one says like, where's West Coast rap? It may be like a sub category, but it's like, what is Drake? Is he Toronto rap or is he just rap? You know what I mean? Like, when you mention Kendrick Lamar, you don't say he's a West Coast rapper unless you're trying to like talk about his origin, but his music, you just say hip hop. So I think there'll come a time where people will say, yeah, like that dude's a Christian. You can tell by his lyrics, but like the fans now are just loving it because it sounds good. And we're just giving them a different way of seeing the world. So it's like, I didn't know I didn't know about luxury couture and Maybachs and champagne until someone brought that into my worldview through music. So I think we're doing the same thing in a lot of ways.
I am curious, what do you think will be like the final push to get us to this no categories genre?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think it's like Gen Z being so like adamant about their art perspective and just like, you're going to see us, right? We're going to go viral just like you're going to go viral. We're going to do all the, like, there's not like a sub version of it. It's like, it's a version, like everything else is a version. And I think social media is really the great equalizer in a lot of ways, right? It just like equalizes things because the algorithm is just showing you what you clicked on or what you liked. And so it's like, you just so happen to like this song by some artist. You didn't know it was a Christian artist, and now you're getting more of them. And it's like, I didn't even know these dudes were Christian. I just thought the music was great. So I think there'll always be a distinction in a sense because, you know, Christianity is exclusive and not in a bad way, but in like we're not a faith that tells you whatever you want, whatever you believe, you're good. You know, we're pretty exclusive. We're like, actually, if you don't believe Jesus, kind of is not Christianity anymore. You know what I mean? So I think we'll have a distinction there.
Yeah.
But artistically, I just see the walls coming down more and more, you know, especially as the quality goes up.
Yeah. So thinking about that and kind of your lifelong mindset as like the elder statesman, how do you, or what do you see as your role in the current state of Christian hip hop or hip hop right now?
Both. I mean, within the Christian space, I think it's challenging the young artists to care as much about being biblically literate because, you know, it saves you from making decisions that are antithetical to what you believe in. Because if you don't know like what you believe in exactly, you're liable to make decisions that are misaligned. So with the younger artists, it's kind of like, hey, something as simple as like pride comes before the fall. Like really understand what that means, because as you do all this self-aggrandizement and puffed up stuff and putting yourself on display, you're actually pushing against what God wants you to do. And it could be detrimental for you. Within hip hop, as a broader culture, I think it's being more invitational. It's inviting them. Rap is so aggressive, and you got a lot of rappers out there who like are bent on telling people outside of the Christian faith how terrible they are, how they need to change, or how they need to make better decisions. And for me, I'm like, well, you haven't invited them into another world yet. You haven't shown them what else is out there. You're like, yeah, put your drugs down. What's my alternative? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like what else heals me if not the drugs? Like how else do I make money? So I think it's our job and our responsibility, my job and my responsibility within hip hop to be invitational. It's not us against the world. It's us for them. Do we care about them? Do we want to see them thrive? Do we want to see them have a better way of living? Then be for them. And so that's kind of how I see my role.
How do you feel like this album Reconstruction helps you accomplish that goal?
I think it's very inviting. I think I'm telling people I'm with you. Like, let's walk through this together. Hey, T.I., hey, Killer Mike, I lost somebody too. Let's all have a conversation about it. Not well, yeah, you lost somebody, but you might die too. Do you know where you're going if you die? And it's like, wait a minute, whoa, slow down.
Yeah. Take a step back.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, can we mourn together? So it's inviting people in, and it's also, hey, what are some alternative perspectives that I haven't considered? You know, on There For You with Friday, I say, you know, you're with me 24/7, but I only gave you a few minutes. And I think anybody who is at the least God-fearing, let's say they're not Christian, they're God-fearing, they could feel that and say, dang, I only really prayed when I got in trouble that one time. Is God really with me 24/7? What does that mean for me? How do I process? Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's think about that. Like, is he that good? Or better sober. It's like, I'm inviting you to sobriety. And I've seen plenty of people repost that are not Christians. They're just like, yes, 222 days sober. And it's like, I'm celebrating with you. I'm not saying, well, what's the point of celebrating if you're not going to heaven? It's like, whoa, slow down. We don't celebrate the kid's birthday now because he doesn't know Jesus. Is that what we're doing out here in these streets? So it's just being invitational and saying, man, can I walk with you? Can I celebrate with you? Can I mourn with you? And then, you know, prayerfully they see like, what is this new way of processing that you've experienced, and how do I learn more about it? And I think, that becomes, you know, how the album helps people reconstruct.
That was Lecrae. Make sure to check out his new album, Reconstruction, wherever you stream music. Well, thanks for joining us for this final edition of the Relevant Podcast Impact Conversation Series. If you've enjoyed these conversations, make sure to help us spread the word. Like, subscribe, post it. Go back and listen to the ones that you might have missed. Every single episode is incredible. And if you subscribe to the Relevant feed here, whether it's on YouTube or on the audio platform you're listening to, you will not miss the next edition of the Relevant Podcast. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Also, launching in 2026 is my long-form conversation podcast, Unedited, which will be debuting in January. We have some great guests lined up for that. All right. Thanks for watching and listening. I'm Cameron Stray.
Shopify is a global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business and sell more with less effort thanks to the Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/redcircle, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/redcircle now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/redcircle.